Welcome. We are very pleased to be joined by Stan Stahl, founder of Secure the Village. We're joined by Padron, Director of Information Security at the Fairfield Residential, Nikolas Behar, Information Security Expert and Professor at the University of Southern California, Tanya Walters, Consulting Security Engineer at WWT, and Ed Vasko, Director, Institute for Pervasive Cybersecurity at Boise State University. Lovely to see you. Great to have you on. This is a nice momentum to start our San Diego forum. We have, and we'll sort of explain. We have a mission to find out who this top post holder is. And actually, I have to be honest. Nick very kindly gave me this suggestion because Nick found a fantastic PwC future-proofing article that talks about what this CISO or top post holder should look like. We should be hiring for these 21st century skills to create the secure smart office or the MSS of the future. Hire within, upskilling, and you know, a lot of the digital building blocks that apparently are lacking, according to this report, include social skills, business and analytical skills, and acumen as well. And so, inside this panel, I guess we're going to be looking at whether or not at University of San Diego, Nico, sorry about that. We're going to be looking at whether or not the CISO, in fact, needs any technical skills anymore. Given that, let's face it, a CISO is not in the weeds like an analyst or an engineer. Now, Tanya, let's start off with you. Should we expect tomorrow's top post holder to actually have technical skills anymore?
Excellent question to start things off. Thank you, Pelham. Welcome, other panelists, and welcome to everybody out in the audience. So the short answer is probably not. I mean, I'll expand on that. But in the past, CISO has, or the top post holder, apologies, has generally come up through the ranks. You know, it's been the geek that buried himself in the server closet and you know, gained his skills and became the top of the heap as he moved from position to position, you know, slowly building his way up. And finally, after 20 years of hard work and dedication, he becomes the CISO, and that's no longer the case. If you take a second and you Google and you go out to Forbes and you look at the top skills that Forbes says a top post holder or a top post holder should have, the number one skill listed is communication. So that has nothing to do with technical skills. That is definitely a soft skill, and it is something that people that spent way too much time in a data center in a server closet might need to enhance before they move into some such roles. So yeah, the number one skill for current top post holders is communication, and then also presentation skills. So technical skills are nice, but I'm going to let the rest of the panel chime in.
Indeed, like the mythical or urban myth of the AT&T CISO who was a sales director. Maybe it's an urban myth. I don't know if it's true. Nick, let me come to you because you very kindly alerted me to this great study. What do you think? Because this reflects on the MSS, MSP, and customer relationship, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think it's just having a good balance of, you know, organizational communication, being able to know who your subject matter experts are, have good trust. I mean, you know, you could be very good at communication, but very bad at technical delivery, and vice versa, right? So you have to have a good balance and an understanding of what are the outputs, right? You should learn to become more outcome based as opposed to, well, we got this great vision, but what is the real outcome and the initiative and the efforts that we're trying to build?
Indeed, and that vision sort of links up with perhaps working with third parties. Let me come to you, Stan, because I know you've built a big community, and you know you must be seeing some sort of an evolution over the years of the top post holder, CISO, or whatever we're going to call them. Is it even important for them to have technical skills? Because isn't that what we have architects for? I don't know. What do you think, Stan?
Well, so to me, it's not an either or. It's you got to have a grounding of technical skills. You've got to build on that a certain measure of management discipline. And above that you've got to have the leadership skills. And it's in those management and leadership places that, like what Tanya was talking about, communication and Nick and all become so important. But the grounding, I mean, if you don't have a hockey coach who's never played hockey, who doesn't know about hockey, you might have Ted Lasso crossover from American football to English soccer, but that's fiction. The reality to me is, you gotta start with the basics, and then you gotta grow it from there. The fundamental piece is you gotta grow it from there. It is that leadership and that capability that comes up to the top.
Well, I like that, and we'd hope, and also we got Chris says shout out for Ted Lasso. I think in reference to what we were saying. Nico, you're an educator, and I know Ed's also an educator, but Nico, you're an educator. What is it about the talent marketplace that is shifting? And people might say, well, why are we wondering about the CISO of the future? This is all about MSS, MSP, and customer relationship. I guess what we're hinting at is that they're sort of a juggler of services and less of a technical specialist. So what does the talent management workforce look like?
So what we're seeing is a lot of schools starting to have two different programs. So for example, the University of San Diego has a leadership program, and they also have an engineering program. So you're seeing them anticipate this, and they're saying, going back to what you said earlier about, oh, well, isn't that what we have architects for? Well, now academia is slowly starting to realize that the architect skill set is different from the actual CISO skill set. So they're starting to train up different students using different courses, different learning objectives. So on the leadership track, we'll look at planning, we'll look at compliance, building a program, the regulations that they have to comply with, the standards that they should be aware of. And then on the engineering side, we'll say, all right, so you have this standard, how are you going to apply it in a technically sound fashion while still meeting all of the objectives? So really starting to communicate, and it's slowly starting to become mainstream that there are really two, maybe even three different types of information security professionals. You can go down the technical track, and I have a lot of students who say, oh, no, I don't want to go down the technical track. I'm more of a behind the desk type of person. I had one student, and she said, no, I don't want to do any technical stuff. I want to be in compliance. And I was like, we need more people like you, right? Because most people want to go and do the sexy stuff, go and respond to incidents and doing the pen tests. And then you have the other ones that also want to do the technical stuff. So the message is starting to get through to the students. And there are actually some students who come in with the mindset of, oh, I want to be doing more compliance, risk-based work instead of breaking stuff.
I love how that's a shift, and the sexy stuff, the pen testing stuff, obviously is what everyone imagines, and yet this topic is important because, especially over lockdown, there seem to be, and at least there's some conversations on Twitter of a heated nature, people that used to sell ice cream but decided they woke up one morning and now they're a cyber guru, and even though we might sort of sneer at them, there is a place for that sort of more marketing related person within cyber. I don't think that ice cream is a great background, but anyway, let's not dwell on ice cream. Ed, what do you think then? Because obviously, does this turn the top post holder into literally a manager of managed services, or if they have none, just themselves?
Yeah, well, I think all the comments from the different panelists, I think, are valid in various ways. I would say that the journey, looking at my background coming from industry into academia, kind of bridging those two worlds. I think that the journey that most top position holders currently have come through technical ranks. There certainly are organizations out there in the marketplace that have a rotational based system for their executive leadership. So for top post holders, there very well could be organizations and are organizations across the country that somebody will move from, let's say, finance to security leadership to IT. That leadership growth kind of belies a sense in a corporate culture or an organizational culture that allows for multifacetedness. So that's what I would say is current state. You have these various organizations, various pathways that most top post holders have taken that come through a technical track, leading towards some level of essential skill development, leadership skill development. And much like Nico over at UC San Diego, Boise State's taken a very similar approach in terms of the curriculum structure, where we see the need for both technical leadership, and I would say that coming from an industry perspective, that you do need these other non-technical or pseudo-technical role sets. Analysts, as a good example, compliance specialists. Those particular areas still need a twinge of technical skill set development. There still needs to be, if I'm looking at the kind of pie of skills, if I look at a pie graph of skills, with non-technical and technical, obviously engineers and architects are going to be heavily weighted towards a technical skill set, with other communication skills and other essential skills, maybe being smaller in terms of that pie set. At the top post holder, you're going to see a very flip of that. You're still going to need to have some level of technical skills, I think, much as the CIO or even the head of sales, head of marketing in an MSS organization, or really any technically focused organization is going to need to understand the platform and how revenue is generated, how customers are made happy, and so forth. So there still needs to be a technical aspect to the role, but certainly one at a top post holder today, I would say it heavily leans towards essential skills, leadership skills, finance skills, and other needed areas. Now,
sounds like a superhero.
Yeah. So my pivot there would be to say that's also going to depend upon the size and maturity of the organization that you're coming in as the top post holder. So let's say, for example, if you're a mid-market company, mid-sized company, your team may be relatively small. So in that particular case, you may have a completely different pie chart of skill set breakdown vis-a-vis somebody who's in a top 50 MSS across the country. So just realize that while we say that there's a need for essential skills, leadership skills within the top post, that's going to break down based upon the size, maturity, and overarching culture of the organization.
Okay, well then let's put that to Tanya then, because what does this then mean? Do we have to divide it into an MSS CISO and an internal CISO? Because at the end of the day, one's going to advise, one's going to do some internal work. What does this really do to this relationship?
That is a really good question. So there are so many different aspects that are required of the top post holders now, whether it is someone who is a little more siloed internally or otherwise focused. I mean, we've all mentioned we've got the business side, we've got the technical side. There's the interpersonal side that becomes incredibly important when you get into these more political positions. Just to take a second and go back to the ice cream comment. I mean, seriously, Helen, ice cream? Not to bash on the ice cream people. 22 years ago, I woke up and I was working as a therapist and woke up one day and went, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go into IT. So I've spent this, these past couple decades developing my technical skills, but I brought other skills to the table, just as other people do as they're coming up through the ranks or changing positions or going from other organizations. So there are other skills that can really be brought in to help with some of that puppet mastering, whether that person is inside the IT organization specifically as a CISO or more overarching as a CIO. But in my personal journey, I've been a security specialist for a very long time now. I'm with Worldwide Technology, and one of the things I get to do is talk to a number of different customers, excuse me, including those people that are in the C-suite. And years ago, when I was doing pre-sales things, we used to say that if the CISO wasn't a part of the conversation, we were selling too far down the org chart. That's not the case anymore. I understand. I see you shaking your head. Yeah, it used to be true. It used to be a truism, but that's not the case anymore. Now we need to bring in those other people that support the CISO or support those upper post holders, as Ed has mentioned, as Nico mentioned, as Nick mentioned. We need to make sure that we have all of the complementing people, because even if the CISO is the ultimate superhero puppet master, they still don't have the knowledge of everything. They need to be able to understand the acronyms so that they know who to delegate to, but that doesn't mean that they are going to have the ultimate answers.
And that is an excellent point, because for any vendor out there, obviously loads of vendors on this event will be very savvy, but there are lots of vendors that go, hey, CISO, buy my thing. And what's the first thing that they say? Go talk to the architect, because like they can actually understand what you're talking about. And so anyway, Nick, what do you think then? Because this article from PwC, it is quite high level and quite encouraging as to what the top post holder might achieve with upskilling 2.0. But what does that actually translate into?
Yeah, so I think with any team, right? There's a cycle, there's an initiative, there's a vision, there's an overarching level of effort that needs to be accomplished. So really, what upskilling is it's really just a technique to augment your staff and to also promote upskilling within. So if I bring in an MSP today that does Amazon migrations all day long, I would expect them to bring a level of effort that is a little easier for them than it would be for my team to go read a book and figure it out. Just as an example, right? That we want to ensure that that we bring in and or promote talent to continue to evolve with the latest market trends.
But what does that actually look like, Nick? Because talent, we talk a lot about talent. We talk about upskilling and so on and so on. What is it? What is it? Is it someone needs some neurolinguistic programming skills? They become a lobbyist. What does it look like? Yeah,
well, I mean, one example would be that you really put together a training budget that aligns with your roadmap. I mean, it's as simple as making sure that you're bringing in bleeding edge talent capabilities, whether you bring it in or you train it within. But either way, you don't want to set your team up for failure. In other words, right? You don't want to say, well, let's do a test and see if they can do this. No, I mean, as a leader, you should know your strengths and your weaknesses within your teams. You should be able to be more of a mentor versus a totalitarian type of an approach. So, I think that's where the business needs to focus on what kind of organization do we want to be. In other words, if you don't want to train a lot, you don't want to do this, you want to keep your staff lean and mean, well, you got to bring in an MSP to do it all. But if you're trying to build a culture of, someone managing those relationships and being able to ask the right questions to the MSP, well, you got to train them to be able to do that. So you gotta know what your short-term and your long-term, people side of the house is going to look like. So those are some examples.
I like that. Harry and Andrew, agree with you. If your MSS isn't sufficient, then it's your CISO that's the problem, because they haven't vetted them. What do you think then, Stan? Because I don't know, will we be having this type of conversation in 3 or 4 years, or will it just be accepted that since some CISOs have legal responsibility, like CFOs do, their job is to vet people? Is that where we're headed, Stan?
That's a good question, Phelim, and I always hesitate to predict the future. Things are going so quickly today. But that said, I mean, you look at my other hat, in addition to Secure the Village, I'm also Director of Information Security with Miller Kaplan. We're a small team of 7, focused very, very much on information security management. And if you look at our client base, small and medium-sized businesses, again, they are the lifeblood, if you will, of the American economy. Most of the companies we go into either have their own IT people already, or they're outsourcing IT. And so we come into that situation with the information security management expertise. And we've also, as it turns out, have a ton of IT expertise, although that's not where we play. So we kind of help govern and lead that effort. But what you've got here is a real, you've got three separate organizations. You got the client on the one side, you've got their IT partner on the second, and then you've got us on the third. And so you look at how do you lead from that kind of a context, and no one's got all the resources. And if I'm going to project ahead to a few years, it's going to still stay that way. If anything, our field seems to be getting more and more and more structured. As now you want just the Amazon cloud expert, and if you've got Azure, you need that expertise as well. And you don't know where you need the incident response pieces, and so on and so on and so on. So it's bringing the team together, and in a sense that's a segue for Secure the Village, because we're all about how do you get all of these disparate players, not just the technical, but lawyers on that, the insurance people. How do you get all of us into the room so that we're all understanding this elephant, if you will, from the same perspective? I think that's, in a sense, what the big challenge is. And wherever we're going to be in a few years, it's the result of getting our arms around this challenge and managing it either really well or less well.
And that elephant that we have to grip with, I think, is sort of what we're doing with this event, or what we're trying to do. Each different panel, we are taking a rock or an elephant and we're overturning it. Okay, maybe my analogy is not going very well here, but we're looking to see where the relationship can be improved. Nico, let me then ask you, is it just a manager, or is it a compliance specialist that will become this top post holder of tomorrow? Or can they hope to be this person that knows of all the latest threats and trends through experience or training? What will they look like?
So they don't necessarily have to be either or. I think it's going to be, as everybody else has said, really important that they understand a little bit of everything so they can bring everybody to the table, like Stan was just saying. Because if you're not able to speak compliance and you're not able to speak TCP/IP, and you're not able to speak finance, then you're going to have a hard time getting all the different people that need to be at the table and actually listening. Because it's one thing to be sitting at the table on your phone doing something else, but it's another thing to be at the table actually listening to somebody that is speaking your language, nodding your head and saying, yeah, this dude or this dudette is making sense. I agree with what they're saying. I didn't want to work with this person. So you have to be able to speak to not only finance, not only compliance, but also to the business unit. So if you're in a medical device company or in a biotech company, you have to be able to understand the business risks as they apply to that organization, right? So laboratory inventory management systems, right? Or if you're in education, student records, if you're in professional services, your deliverables, you also have to be able to understand the line of business that your organization is in, because each industry and each vertical faces their own unique challenges. And so really what we're going to be looking for in the future is somebody who not only understands the business, but also understands finance, understands compliance, understands technical terms and concepts, like not necessarily, hey, tell me the difference between TCP and UDP, but at least when you hear TCP, they kind of know what you're talking about. So having all those different bodies of knowledge that you can speak to is definitely going to be key.
Okay, I like that. And then Ed, let me then, I suppose, finish with you because of time. You've been to a number of our events before. Thank you very much for supporting them. What can we hope to achieve today, given that, again, we've got end customers, MSS and MSP in the room? Where can we hope to go?
Yeah, well, I mean, I would say, as an MSS or an MSSP, if you're looking to enhance the customer experience, taking the time to develop up the internal talent to understand the customer or industries that you're servicing, so that your top talent holder within the company gets an understanding of your business, but also the business of your end customers. making your teams aware of some of the challenges and concerns within your extended customer base, I think is going to be extremely helpful. And then I would say, as your company continues to grow, either as an MSS directly or an MSSP directly, or as an end customer, realize that the top post holder is going to come back to that pie chart of skills I mentioned. The pie chart of skills is going to adjust and flex and change, and you have to look at the willingness to invest in your top post holder to change with how your organization is changing. So if you're looking at adding 1,000 additional clients across the country, and they're all in a particular industry, well, then getting the top post holder to understand that industry as well as your own company is going to be helpful in the sales process and in the customer retention and customer experience process. So I think that just be flexible in your approach and realize that just like everything else in cyber, the need to have dynamic skill development is paramount.
Dynamic skill development. Well, that's hopefully what we're doing with this event. We're trying to develop dynamic skills. I can see there's loads of wonderful comments actually already in the audience from Harry. Regulations moving to a place where a minimum level of cyber hygiene will be considered compliant. We got Andrew. It says Fortune 50 less political players. Some cybersecurity learned through reading magazines like CISO magazine. Yeah, it's a great magazine. And Tanya has sent a great article. But yeah, no, we are out of time. But this is a great panel, and I hope it has given us a bit of a tone to sort of set for the whole event, because we are overturning rocks or dealing with, as Stan said, the elephant. And this is a great way to begin looking at the top post holder. Please give Stan, Ed, Tanya, Nico, and Nick a big virtual round of applause. We've already got nice thanks coming in from Kevin and others. So thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.